Here are my note cards. Hello, my name is Sarah Birkmeyer, and for my oral speech, I will be presenting to you the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory Fire. I've chosen this topic for two reasons, one of them being that it is my most interesting and favorite subject that we've covered over the course of this semester. And second reason being, I don't think enough people really know about this tragedy, or at least have enough information about the impact it's had over the labor union and the working class, especially in the early 1900s. Just 90 years before 9/11, on March 25th, 1911, the 600 young women, especially of Jewish and Italian descent, that walked into the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory, 146 of them did not make it out alive. The day of, a fire broke out in one of the rag bins, and in just about a couple of minutes, the entire building was engulfed in flames. Now, escapes were especially difficult. Some people did end up escaping on the one elevator that was there. It only went for about 4 rounds before it eventually broke. Therefore, people started jumping down the elevator shaft, hoping that they would make it out alive, and they fell to their deaths. There were 2 stairwells on the factory, but one of them did have a door that was locked from the outside. Therefore, when people ran down to it, they burned alive because they couldn't get the door open. There was a fire escape. However, with so many people trying to escape from it, it collapsed under its own weight, which eventually led women to just jump out the building through the windows and ultimately smash on the pavement. Now, many people could write this off as just a tragic incident of the women being in the wrong place at the wrong time, including the factory owners, Max Blank and Isaac Harris. However, what's most tragic about this event is that it was completely preventable. First of all, Blank and Harris both had histories of their factories burning up before, including one of their factories in 1902, 1907, and 1910. Therefore, there was a couple on the record before this one happened. Also, we need to look at the working conditions that these two were putting their young women under. There were cramped spaces, which meant that all their sewing machines were kind of just pushed up together. There were actually 4 elevators in this building, but only one of them was operational, therefore it couldn't get people out fast enough. Again, like I said, the 2 stairways had one that was locked from the outside by, supposedly, Blank and Harris. This was quote-unquote to stop thieves and stealing, but many people think it's under suspicious terms. The fire escape was too narrow, so really only maybe 1 to 2 women could get on at a time, but in the case of a real fire, which did happen, it was useless because it kept collapsing under their own weight. And there was a lack of communication since most of these people were of Jewish and Italian descent. They didn't speak English. Therefore, the escape would be quite difficult if they couldn't communicate with each other. And the most evidence that really just puts them under a lot of scrutiny is that they could have installed sprinkler systems. They were offered it and they didn't take that offer as they didn't feel was necessary. These sprinklers could have saved these women's lives had they been installed before the fire. All in all, these conditions were responsible for not just the fire itself, but the essential escape plan that these women could have had and just weren't offered. Many of these women their lives could have been saved from this, and they just refused to put it in, which led a lot of the victims' families to hold a lot of judgment against not just these 2 men, but their families as well. Despite all the evidence, however, they were not convicted of a manslaughter charge, which angered much of New York. Now, many people might ask, what good came out of this preventative evil? Well, there were a couple of things. First of all, it did catch a lot of attention separated from other fires. It caught the attention of the current New York government, the New York governor, Alfred E. Smith at the time, the Senator Robert E. Wenger, and Francis Perkins. With political attention, it got not only people in politics involved, but the citizens of New York as well. There were many protests that happened in New York, and later that October, the Sullivan-Hoey Fire Prevention Law was passed. But most importantly, it was a wake-up call for New York, that not only should these workers be treated with respect, but also should be given the bare bones safety measures that they need to safely work in these factories, and that factory owners should be responsible for implementing these safety measures and should be held accountable for when these safety measures fail. All in all, I still think this is a very important topic. It helped spark the labor union movement. This one event, while tragic and led to many of the deaths of many women, was the reason that we have safety protocols such as the fire prevention law and OSHA laws for people that work in such dangerous fields of work. Without this tragedy, who knows what the labor union would look like today? Thank you.